Doing today?
She's pretty good. She is.
So today is special. They are rehabbing this entire building piece by piece by piece. They opened up this building for us to do this meeting, but we do have to leave by 8 p.m. on the dot. So we're going to try to shut the meeting down by 7:45, just to give everyone just a warning of why we're rushing to get out of here. The next piece is we're going to talk about today is the housing and affordable housing. We've been meeting with the community now for almost a year and a half. We've had a number of meetings. We had a focus housing meeting. We've had some other meetings. We've had this meeting. But we've had a lot of information about housing. This PowerPoint that we're going to go over with you is HRD really kind of defining what the priority recommendations are and then making sure that you guys agree where we're moving forward with our recommendations. So then you'll see a lot of information like that. And then like at the end of this, what we'd like to do is have that community conversation. So we're gonna give each person 10 seconds to answer a question at the end. So everybody at least has a voice of what they'd like to see as it relates to housing for this neighborhood. And then lastly, what I'd like to do is you can just go back. Michelle, please.
Go back.
Yeah, one more slide so I can introduce you. So I wanted to introduce two people. DeMarco Ansari, can you please stand up just to let us know who you are?
Oh, DeMarco Ansari, I'm the West Regional Development Director, Public-Private Partnership Team. So I'll be taking us through a lot of the housing conversation.
Perfect. Michelle Lee, could you introduce yourself?
Michelle Lee. I'm also a member of the Public-Private Partnership Team under Housing and Revitalization for the City of Detroit. Glad to see everyone here this evening.
Perfect. And then Antoine Bryant, our planning director, if you could please introduce yourself.
Antoine Bryant, Director of Planning and Development Department.
Perfect. Nice to meet you all. Thank you. Next slide. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about affordable housing, priority recommendations, developing affordable housing typologies. We're really going to want your input on what you guys believe is what fits this neighborhood the best. We'll go over some examples. Planning coordination, and then we'll do a community conversation, and then we'll do our question and answer after that. Next slide, please. Just once again, just to remind everybody, this is our kind of planning area, and it incorporates all these different neighborhoods: Castle Rouge, Elijah House, Schoolcraft Improvement, Philly Grove, all these neighborhoods as part of what we've been working with for the last year and a half. Next slide. This is our schedule. We're kind of in our last of two meetings. The housing meeting we're having now, and then we're going to have a meeting with Parks and Open Space. And then that will be the last of our meetings before we start creating a final draft of the booklet. And then once we do that, we're going to put that on there, and you guys are going to have an opportunity to put all types of comments into that booklet. So it just doesn't get written and printed. You guys are going to have almost a month to 2 month period of time to edit and make comments. Next slide. Affordable housing development. Next slide, please. So here I would like to introduce DeMarco, if you like, and just talk a little bit about kind of what these components are.
Yeah, I got you. All right, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Oh, that's not enough. This is a housing conversation. This is supposed to be fun. Good evening.
Good evening.
We're gonna have some fun talking about the future. All right, so as I said, Marco Ansari, I'm with the Housing and Revitalization Department with the Public-Private Partnership Team. So what does all of that mean, right? So when we talk about housing and revitalization, we're talking about a number of different buckets that impact a lot of the residential, how you feel when you live in your neighborhood. So there's different buckets, like I was saying. So we have the single family housing, that's just your detached home in many of the neighborhoods that you live in. We're talking about multi-family, mixed-use developments, things that you would see on corridors. And then, all of this stuff plays in together. So then we're talking about demolition, we're talking about land, parks, all these different things. But the whole point of it is to talk about how do we make our neighborhoods better so that we can live in them better, have a better feel, that we can walk through our neighborhoods, things of that nature, right? So HRD, we deal with a number of different things. So one is improving access to home repair, partnering with grant makers and community organizations. So you probably heard of some of our programs where we're talking about home repair, roof repair, lead abate, and all of these different things. This is one bucket that we talk about. Working with nonprofits who provide housing counseling and eviction and defense services. So you've heard about, the number of people who were getting evicted during COVID. And, we had these programs to give people eviction defenses to help them, negotiate with their landlords if they weren't, really capable of doing that. And then we increased the use of land bank own it now properties and rehab and ready. So another thing with these two programs, so the land bank has a number of properties that's in their inventory, right? So they have buckets of how to disperse these properties back into the community. So the first ones is Own It Now. So those is, you just go to the Building Detroit website, they have a list of properties, you say, I want that one, you click on it, it starts a timer, and that timer is I think it's like 72 hours. You bid on it, if you win it, you get it, and then you gotta go fix this house, it's got a hole in the roof and windows missing and all that. And then there's the Rehab and Ready, which is the land bank is intentionally finding homes in the neighborhoods. They rehab those homes to get the property value up. So they'll go in and fix this house like it was the best house in the world. They'll fix it and then they'll sell it at the increased property value. The benefit of that is that your property value, so if you live next to this house, your property value now goes up. So you have a little bit more equity in your home that you can pull out. These are things we'll talk about a little bit more. So if you have questions, please write them down and we'll come back to it. Next slide. So what Michelle and I focus on a lot is affordable housing. So, and typically mixed-use multifamily is the space that we play ball and best, but we can help with all kind of residential projects. So it's just a matter of having a conversation to see where we point you in the right direction and within the Housing and Revitalization Department. So this, as you can see, these pictures is a number of projects that that would fall under our wheelhouse of assistance or working with them and communicating with the community. So for instance, you have like the Parker Durand, we had a developer wanted to do this big deal. And so with that one, this is the one in the middle. Parker Durand, the community didn't quite want to see that deal happen. So HRD stepped in and we tried to mediate the two groups to see if we can make a deal happen. And with that project, we got a good amount of affordability. But anyway, you have Cathedral Arts, which is a light tech project, and Benjamin O. Davis, which is another light tech project. Benjamin O. Davis is a really interesting one. I worked on this a minute ago, but that's for veterans. So it's really a veteran-centric development. But anyway, City of Detroit, most of our deals in the city need subsidy. And when we talk about subsidy, what we're talking about is money that goes into the deal. These deals would not happen if we don't put money into them. And so that's what we mean by subsidy. But most of the deals across the city need subsidies. So with the multifamily affordable rental, so we're talking about, when we say this, we're typically talking about apartment buildings or mixed-use apartment buildings that have about 50 or so units, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, but typically in that range. Homeownership, developments with a variety of home sizes, typologies. So these are other ones that we work on. So we try to work with community people who want to do homeownership opportunities. They want to rehab homes and sell them to the community. We'll work with these developers. These deals also need some subsidies sometimes, so we help out there. And then also we have vacant home renovation in target areas, such as completing mostly occupied blocks or directly around parks. So, well, yes.
I know you asked us to hold our questions.
All right, it seems like you got it important.
Well, I don't know if Dave told you or not, but we have really tried to ask people to tell us what acronyms mean. So you just used one, LIHTC.
Oh yeah, my bad. That's a low-income housing tax credit. So these are deals that typically have a significant amount of subsidy. They're going for MSHDA, the Michigan State Housing Development Authority. They're going after those funds at either a 4% or 9% deal. They're going to be heavily subsidized. The developers are experienced working on those kind of deals. The city will, sometimes all of these, again, they all have subsidies. They're going to, a low-income housing tax credit deal is going to be looking for all of the subsidies for the most part. We can talk about some, so like Cathedral Arts is a light tech deal. But actually, if you allow me to hold that for a second, I have another project that is a light tech deal that I'm going to talk about in detail.
And one more question.
Sure.
Is HRD
Housing and Revitalization Department.
is that a department of its own, or are you under planning and development?
I'm under the Housing and Revitalization Department.
Okay. And you're not connected to the planning bank?
No, not directly.
Yeah, in terms of.
Don't beat me up. Nah, if you're gonna beat me up on the land bank, I'm not
In terms
associated.
of the sixth grade departments, but it's separate, yes.
Okay.
But we work with, I'm sure obviously you got questions, so we'll come back to that land bank question. Next slide.
And thank you for reminding us about the acronyms.
I'll do my best, but I
Just do
mean,
this, if you miss it.
that's what I need. Otherwise, I'm not gonna know. I'm just up here talking. All right. Okay. So how does the process for affordable housing development work? All right. Let's see what we got here. Regulate for success. So we zoning and policies. So this is just related to like what can we build and where can we build it, right? So if land is zoned R1, which is residential and probably the lowest level of residential, right? We can't come in and then do a 50-unit apartment building because that's like R5 or B4 or something like that. R5 being a higher intensity of residential, and then B4 being a commercial, a higher intensity of commercial. So first we got to make sure we're in the right zone. Then we got to, as far as policies to allow for housing development and subsidy provision. So that's just a matter of just trying to understand the deal, making sure that it fits the different buckets and is doing what it's meant to do. It's following our mission, the City of Detroit's mission, the community's mission if they have a plan in place. So we're working with the community to make sure that a deal is doing what it's supposed to do. Then we identify a developer. That's the important part. That's where our team steps in. Public-private partnership, which is going to be P3. So remember that if you hear me say P3, public-private partnership, we work with the development community. So we say, hey, the community wants us to do this thing here. It's a multifamily, a mixed use, something like that. So then we say, the community wants to see X, Y, Z. And so I go out, well, I don't go out, Michelle goes out, and she goes and get a developer. So she sends out a request for proposal, which is RFP. I'm not gonna, right? You're not writing these down, guys. So request for proposal, we put these out there, and then we work with the development community to field what comes in so we can understand the different deals, and then we vet them to make sure they make sense. And then along this way, if it's an affordable housing development deal, which is what me and Michelle work on, we'll typically be in conversation with the community on what we're looking at, and we'll try to work with you to make sure you're getting what you want, and then we're getting the affordable units that we need.
And some of the best examples of that is when a developer comes into a neighborhood, looks for a local CDO, CDC, or nonprofit organization, and partners with them to become a joint developer in that community. We have many examples of that happening in the city of Detroit, and we love when that happens.
So it sounds like you would be the point people for the racial equity toolkit because you're aligning with the developers to make sure that these developers are coming here and developing in a way that is centered on racial equity. Is that true?
I think that there's a lot of synergy between us and the Racial Equity Alliance. I think that some of the things that, I don't know fully what the Racial Equity Alliance, everything that's in it. So I'm gonna just go ahead and tell you, I'm totally ignorant of that. But many of the things that I'm sure are in there are things that Michelle and I would work on when we're looking at development and looking at developers and trying to make sure that they understand what the community wants to build. Understanding that sometimes, we run into these points or these clashes where things just aren't working, and our job is to then work to try to smooth these things out so that we can get to what we want, right? So at the end of the day, the goal is to create a compromise where everybody loses, right? And what a compromise is. So anyway, we try to get everything that we can.
So within what my neighbor said, I'm wondering if you mentioned you don't know what the racial equity toolkit is. So would HRD be willing to be trained on what it is or get some understanding of what it is so that as you work with developers, you're coming with the idea of what communities are talking about?
And let me add to that. So the Racial Equity Toolkit is something that we've already agreed that we want to work with the community to develop for this community. So once that's developed, then HRD, when they have a deal, it's got to go through that Racial Equity Toolkit for this community. And if it doesn't fit, it doesn't go here. And so then that's something that we've already agreed that we want to do with this community.
And just that we say that it doesn't go here, our HRD's goal is always to get those affordable units. So we'll try to see if we can make it work before we understand that the deal is totally not compatible with the community.
And I just want to add one piece, please forgive me, I'm going to call you right back. The majority of funding that flows through housing revitalization, federal dollars are tied to diversity, DEI, right? Diversity, equity, inclusion, which incorporates a lot of those factors that you're mentioning in that racial equity tool. Does that make sense? And we are held to that federal standard.
And that's why I said we're mostly, even though I don't know it, I can guess what's in it, and we're mostly aligned with it.
Well, the development that's been done in this city does not suggest that that's true.
And I'll take that. So if you want us to do more training, Michelle's got homework. What are we going to do?
Y'all said that when y'all come into
One second.
y'all said when y'all come into a community, y'all look and find out a program that fits the community and make sure it fits the community and work. And if it's not working, then y'all have to fix it. So why is it that y'all dropping the ball on these Brightmoor homes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Y'all dropped the ball on us. I don't care about that. I don't care. I'm still a boss.
You're correct.
But how can you? But my thing is this: how can you move on with getting a community together? You still got more people. You got me, a single parent living in these Brightmoor homes that I was promised that I was going to get, and I've been here 20 years now for real. So, and I'm still not, and I'm not getting them. But y'all telling us is no, they wasn't for us to get, but ones got theirs, twos got theirs, threes working on theirs. So why y'all not continuing with 4s and 5? Because it's not fair.
Well,
If we
can I
made a
say
promise and
something?
y'all dropped the ball.
I'm number one, and I was passed.
See?
And I was told it wasn't such a program. I've been in my house over 5 years. I was promised to become a homeowner after 5 years.
Okay.
So,
The
for
ball was
someone to
dropped.
say that it's over, I
It
didn't
can't
want
be.
to
One second.
My name is Danielle Strong.
Ms. Strong,
Mhm.
what's your name?
Frederica Townsend.
Ms. Tyler?
Yes.
Okay.
So what I want you to do, and I understand the frustration. I'm not even going to pretend that I don't understand the frustration. All right. So the one thing that we want you to do is Michelle's going to get your information. And we're going to make sure that we pass this over to our preservation team so that they'll reach out directly to you. Let me say this. The preservation team is a part of our housing and revitalization department. Okay. So I'm on the public-private partnership team. We focus more on the future when we're talking about multifamily developments, mixed-use developments, things of that nature. The preservation team works with these developers who we may have dropped the ball. Things may have not worked out with the programming of it, and they work with you to see if they can figure out what's going on with the developer and with yourself and see if they can help you guys figure that out. So I'm very familiar with the Brightmoor homes and what has happened with it. I think the city is aware of it. We are working on it. One thing that what I was told is that and this is a really delicate situation because what we've done is we're defaulted on the loan that we have out with the developers and NDND group. So we've defaulted on that. And
What does that mean?
what is defaulting on the loan?
Yeah, what that means?
We told them that you have not done what you're supposed to do, so you need to pay us back the money that we put into it. So
Are they still,
Who need to
are they
pay that?
still under the same ownership? With the loan being in default?
Well, yeah, of course, they're in the same, it's a default against them on the property.
Okay, but specifically for Brightmoor Homes, they have, and I can say this with accuracy because we share space and so we share the mailbox. So all that being said, there's 15 different titles, different entities that they operate under.
Okay.
And and what these women are saying is truth, especially if that.
I'm not saying anybody's lying.
No, I'm not saying you are, but I want to make sure we don't minimize or marginalize the conversation either.
Sure.
But at the same time, understanding that John O'Brien has continued to be allowed to operate, which in effect is the problem. And what he does is shifts over, or Al, his assistant, takes over. So I can understand when you said that the city has defaulted on the loan and said, no, we're not going to back you any longer. That's wonderful. That's for that entity, when we need to speak about all the entities. But then I also want to go back to.
But all of these entities are connected, so, all right, so I can make sure. All of these entities are connected. So when you say Brightmoor Homes, I think of all of them.
That may be how you think of it. When it
Well,
comes to the prop-
that's how the city is thinking about it.
Okay,
And
but that's not necessarily true. Because based on our research we've done. So that's based on that. But
Okay.
I don't want to get into debate with you on it because
Okay.
again, no, I'm not going to do that in this because time is limited and I know that's what we
Right.
talked at the beginning. But I want to make sure we acknowledge the fact that the It's the different entities you may say they're all fall under the same umbrella, but that's not how it's working for the property taxes, for the water bills for these folks. And that's what's happening, and so they're not able to take ownership of it. But what I really wanted to lift up, and I wanted to make sure I recentered the conversation around the racial equity toolkit. And I know you said, and Ms. Lee said, and Ms. Lee acknowledged it, and so I want to make sure the room hears this, that diversity, equity, and inclusion is not the same, nor does it even begin to touch on a racial equity toolkit framework. Those are entirely two different things.
All right.
So we need to make sure we understand
got
that in this space.
I got you. So two things. I can bog the whole conversation down with Brightmoor Homes, which I don't want to do because we got a lot of other stuff to talk about. What I can say is Ms. Lee right now is walking through and taking information for everybody. So if you have an issue with this with Brightmoor Homes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever they are, please make sure you give Ms. Lee your information so that she can write it down and we will follow back up with you. So that's one. Two, with the I never said the DEI and racial equity are the same. So what I said was a lot of the things that I believe that I've kind of glanced over with the racial equity toolkit is that the city of Detroit, the HRD department, particularly my team, a lot of what we do is in the same spirit. So I just need to be brought up to speed on anything that's specific in it. But I'm pretty sure what we're trying to do is what's trying to be accomplished in
It's
that.
not the same spirit, but I can respect what you said. So
Okay.
what my suggestion is that you familiarize yourself.
Which is what you guys are gonna bring me up to speed on.
No, that's what you're gonna do.
Okay,
Our
but
job
you
is
got,
to educate you.
I got you, I understand.
Okay.
All right, I gotta move on from Brightmoor Homes, so I'm gonna take this last one, and then I gotta move on. Unless this is not right.
I appreciate that the city is no longer funding that project, but I am concerned about how that is gonna affect the majority renter occupants of those homes.
Yeah.
He cannot pay his bills.
Because he don't, I understand.
So what is gonna happen to those people if he loses those homes and they get foreclosed on?
This is the
How are you
challenge.
guys protecting them?
This is the challenge.
Again, it's a
We're
larger
explaining it.
conversation, not to dismiss it, it's a very important conversation. I'm just not the team to directly talk about it. My understanding, and this is my belief strongly, Michelle. From my understanding is that we will not leave anybody left behind with what has happened with this. This shouldn't have happened. And when we work with developers, this is not the thing that we want to happen. I don't know how long ago this happened, so I'm pretty new to 20 years ago. I take that. So when we talk about this is something that happened 20 years ago, and it shouldn't have happened.
But it's still happening.
And it is still happening, and we're trying to rectify it. So that's why it's important. That's why it's important that you make sure that Michelle has your information, because I'm gonna go back tomorrow and I'm gonna talk to them about this. And I'm gonna say, hey, I got these 10 people who said that they're still being impacted by this. What can we do? We need to reach out to them. We need to understand what's going on and try to make them better. I gotta move on. You said what?
It's not 10.
It's more than 10.
But well, you know, I don't.
There are over 300
I'm trying to talk about the people out there in the world.
renters in them.
I understand. So
But didn't nobody know about this meeting, so it was a secret meeting to us, so we had to spread the word real quick. We can get to come.
I got you. We will be in touch, and you make sure, because obviously you're neighbors with these people. So make sure that we know who else is being impacted, and we'll reach out about this and talk about it. You okay if I keep talking? You want this other stuff? All right. So,
But before you move on, I need to say this. I need to make sure we're clear. That's not the city's that's not our responsibility to educate you on something that meaning you personally. It's not impact you personally.
I understand.
But we need to make sure we're clear in this space. It is not the community's job. It is not those who are being most gravely impacted.
Sure.
That's like saying those who are the victim should be responsible for policing. No, that's not our, it's the job of the city to do the due diligence to
Sure.
find out. It's not hard, because if we can do the back checkup,
Sure.
most surely the city can. Again, not to attack you against you personally, but
Sure.
let's not put it on the ownership on community to come up and say, this is what's happening, let us educate you. Because what our concern is, thank you, but not just pass me
You
through.
got it.
The major concern you're hearing in the room is, at this moment is, if this is how you allow this group to operate it, what guarantee do we have that the group that you bring in, we can trust you to do your due diligence? That's the concern I think that you're missing in the room. So while we need to move on and we can respect that, we need to understand why, but more importantly, based on what the lives of these people are going through, then what we're saying is, let's make sure we don't see this happen again. And no, it's not our job to educate you on racial equity toolkit, nor the situation that's happening with families in the community. Because if we can do that, that's asking us to get people to meetings, that's the city's job.
I respect that. I respect that, and I do have to move on from it, so I will. But
I just want to make sure we have that in the notes.
I know Dave wrote that in the notes, that's all I'm writing. But what I do want to say is this is about keeping me accountable too. So I'm not saying to educate me, I never said that, but I do want you to keep me accountable. So if you're bringing up racial equity, I want you to tell me, hey, listen, these are the things that I want to know. These are the things that I want to see. Well, then also hold me accountable to it. All right, so, yeah, you got it. So, the third step in the process is we acquire land. And a lot of the land that the city works with is publicly owned land anyway. So it's either land owned by the land bank or land owned by the planning and development department or in the care of the planning and development department. So we begin to assemble this land so that we can package it up for a developer to begin to do their development. The fourth step is designing it, and this is pretty standard stuff. So we go through a design process. Again, the community is typically involved in this process. So as they're creating their schematics, the drawings, the designs, the facade, you guys are residents, the people in this community, you guys are speaking on that. If you don't like it, if they come with purple metal siding, you can say, we don't like that, and you need to think about the character of the rest of the building. Securing the financing. This is the toughest part of a development deal. This is the hardest part. That's lining up your funders, lining up the financiers, getting any kind of pilots or anything that way you're working on any kind of easements. Is the toughest part. Most of our deals break at this point.
And this is where we need the racial equity toolkit the most.
I understand.
So do the city
Yes.
step in and help secure their finance, or you have to do that yourself?
We don't secure the financing for a development team, but what we do is the development team comes in and say, hey, I'm working on this deal, and I'm going to talk about one in the back and later on in the presentation. They say, I got a $14.2 million deal I'm trying to do in Brightmoor, right? Okay. And I got this gap, and this gap is like $3 million, and I need some help to get this done. And so they come to myself and Michelle, and they say, how can you help me get this done? And what I'll say is, listen, I'll give you $1 million. I'm not going to just give it to you, go through a whole process to get it, but just for the sake of conversation. I say, you're going to go through our notice of funding application and apply for that money, okay? And you can get up to $1 million, or whatever the amount is. I'm not quite sure, I'm just throwing out $1 million. So I say, I'll give you $1 million for your deal, right? But you're going to have to give me some affordable units, 60% AMI, 30% AMI. I'm going to need you to get me some affordability in this deal so that residents at those lower wages can live in those apartments. So that's how the city puts money into a deal. But it's not like we give you, it's a grant, it's nothing like that. We get affordable housing. My team is the affordable housing team. So everything that we give money to, we expect to get affordable housing units.
We don't just supposed to have so many affordable houses in anything that you build in a structure like this.
Say again?
I thought that you're supposed to be able to have affordable housing for people to live in that, wherever you build.
It depends on the deal, right? So if you're doing a deal downtown, right? So like the residents in Water Square, right on the river, that's a luxury deal. The price is the price. They need to, if you can afford it, you can, right? But in the neighborhoods, what we see is affordable deals are more obtainable, right? And so the developers we're working with in the community, they've already planned to provide the affordability, but they're just trying to work through their capital stack. But sometimes they hit a roadblock and they say, hey, I'm a little short. And so I say, okay, I'll help you, but you gotta give me more affordability. Or there's other ways that we can try to help.
So most of the deals in neighborhoods are using these financing mechanism tools like LIHTC, low-income housing tax credits, MISHDA, the Michigan
State Housing Development.
There you go. And so then once you use those entities, you have to have affordability in your project. But if you're downtown and you're a billionaire and you're funding your own project, then you can be market rate because you're not looking for any type of subsidy from this.
And we're talking more like luxury deals, right? So if it's a luxury deal, the price is the price. I raise it up until I get until this thing funds itself.
So can we also say that there's sometimes that we actually request or seek providing incentives to these developers because it then provides us an opportunity to have that affordable housing, because otherwise we would not have any say-so, any play whatsoever in the affordability of the home. So there's sometimes developers come before the city and want to do a development project. And they don't want any incentives whatsoever. They want to kick folks out. We've got a couple of projects that are right now that are just like that. We then step in and say, hey, hold on. We can help sweeten your deal and reduce, again, with that $1 million or whatever that dollar amount is, in order for us to have some say-so in that particular deal that will allow for some level of affordability that would not exist if we did not have that incentive. So there are times where we seek these developers out to provide those incentives when they didn't ask for it. And otherwise, everything would be market.
And it's a city council at work.
That is the check and balance.
Right.
The city council typically is the most powerful entity in the room. Your council member can sit there and say, hey, this deal's coming to my district, this is what I demand. So what council member, President Pro Tem is telling you, that he's showing you what the check and balances are. So it's good for you guys to know that. Thank you for telling them that.
So you guys talk a lot about affordability. Affordability is definitely important.
Sure.
But I don't hear a lot of talk about accessibility. And yes, I know there is a set aside
Sure.
according to the federal government.
Yep.
But that's a set aside. And it does not equitably and completely meet the needs of the community. There are studies that show that poverty and disability go together like peanut butter and jelly.
Sure.
So when you talk about creating affordability, accessibility, and not minimal, oh, we're ADA compliant, that's the basically making sure that people have what they need to not just survive but thrive in a place that they call home is important.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't really have a comment to that. What I will say is I know Councilmember Durhall, you can correct me, is on the accessibility task force. So all of these deals that come through, I know he grills them because he grilled me on a different project. I know he grilled me where he's talking about accessibility. Secondly to that, when we're talking about these new developments that are coming through, we're asking them what they're doing for, as far as accessibility goes. We're talking about elevators. We're talking about the width of the doors, making sure those are wide enough, for wheelchairs. Bringing those countertops low enough to, so people who are in a wheelchair can activate and use sinks and counters and things like that. So there's a number. I agree with you. I think that I think that with the new developments, we definitely can speak to a lot of those things. We can ask for those things. I don't think that developers would necessarily not want to do those things because I don't believe the cost of making a door wider or narrow is a real thing, and lowering a counter is not complicated. Just put a lower counter in, right? So that's what we do for the newer developments. And then, like I said, as these developments go through the city council route and they're going through PED and a number of things, they're asking those questions too. So there's a number of checks in there to say, hey, you're building a new development. What are you doing about accessibility? What about our people who have disabilities or whatnot? How are they being able to use these new developments that we're doing? So it is important. I think we can do more, and I think we will do more. And I think when we put our RFPs on shelves, I'll yell at her later, but I'll say we need to make sure that we're also talking about accessibility.
So can I just add as well, I am the chair of that committee.
Sorry.
Planning and Economic Development, and we have been pushing hard because of advocates like yourself and Marguerite Maddox, as you know, for universal design. So we're not just talking about accessible, we're talking about attainable, accessible, but universal design all together. So we have actually not necessarily turned down a deal, but we paused until there was more accessibility from a universal standpoint. So that does happen, but as we move forward within this new framework, that has to be something that we adopt holistically for the entire project. I just want to let you know, we do slow down, pause projects until they add additional elements of universal design that did not exist before. Sometimes that is having a situation where you don't have to push a door open. You just go into the direction and the door opens itself. Making sure that people don't have to have separate entrances if you have a wheelchair or you have some mobility issues. You're able to enter in the same way. So that is now something that we're weaving into the fabric of our discussions in planning and economic development. There are some developers that do push back.
Yeah, for sure.
There are some, because they don't like to change necessarily the design that they have, because they know that if they have a unit that is designed for someone who has mobility or have disability issues or challenges, you have a lower sink, lower, all these different things, wider. It now, for the developer, it creates a situation where I can only rent out or lease these units to someone who fits in that particular category. And I don't know if I'll ever have someone, so I don't really want to do that.
Right.
That's where their mindset is.
Exactly.
We push them on that hard, though.
I can take one more question, and then
I want to make a point, because you're talking about affordability. Sure. And you're talking about what constitutes that. So somebody who makes AMI is the area median income. For Detroit, that's $71,000. We're in the area we live in is $71,000. Might be off 1 or 2,000. Somebody makes 80% of that, meaning they make, what is that, 80% of 56? If they make $56,000 a year in a family of 3 or 4, depending on who you're using, they would qualify as a low-income household and could enter into one of these units that's supposed to be affordable. The challenge is the median income in Brightmoor is $27,000 a year, meaning the majority of people in Brightmoor would be squeezed out of that unit. I just want to make this point clear. As we talk about affordability, we have to push the definition drops to the level that the majority of people in this community will qualify to get access.
And can I say at the same time, raise as best as possible. Training.
I'm down with you on that.
Yeah.
But in the meantime,
True.
True. In the meantime and in between time, I requested the Housing and Revitalization Department, along with the Planning Department, to apply for the small area fair market rents. That will base the rent on the zip code. Now, I asked before, I'm asking again. Housing, planning, city council, the mayor's office, lottie-dottie, everybody. Please apply for the small area fair market rent program. Amen?
Amen. Amen.
All right. All right, let me finish this slide. All right, huh?
I just have a quick question about the economic, like raising economic status so that we don't have to worry as much about that threshold. My understanding is that this community does have quite a few like seniors and disabled people living in those affordable housing homes, and economic development is, somebody who's a senior disabled is not going to be able to go out and get the trade jobs that are coming into this neighborhood. So how are we going to take care of those people in this like balance between the cost of a home and economic lifting of the neighborhood?
That's
right?
the challenge we have right now.
And it's not a challenge just for this neighborhood. It's a challenge for every neighborhood. So a lot of these things are not unique, and we're trying to figure it out. We just have to kind of keep stumbling until we can find that right solution that we can apply to, across the city.
You have one more question.
My question had to do with supports for small landlords, so the folks in the neighborhood that may have bought, a house or two just sort of to stabilize. Where are the supports for them?
Like resources to rehab homes and stuff like that. See, man, that's an easy one. You should have put that on already. Check with Michelle. and just give her your information. We have resources for home loans. All of these things are like in our shop. So please give Michelle your information and then connect with her, and then we can talk about this.
I think my question is, this plan has intentionally addressed those demographics.
Does this plan?
Yeah.
Does this, I'm sorry,
Does this plan address home repair needs in the neighborhood? No, so typically, the home repair projects go through HRD.
Right.
Seniors highest on the requirement list, but there's only a bucket of money.
Yeah, so it's like, there's only a bucket, so you start with like our seniors, and so, they had the big thing where we had the senior grants to repair homes, so, we started with seniors, then it was like disabled, 55 and over, so we then added them into the bucket. I know we have a big lead abatement program right now, and that is for children under 6. So these are all home repair things, home repair loans and whatnot. We also have there's also the Detroit home loan. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to take out a loan. However, at the end of the day, it's a $25,000 0% interest loan. So you're only paying back what you borrow. And I think there's
And I do want you to know that in other parts of the city, groups like Live 6 has raised over $200,000 to do a home repair program in their neighborhood of Fitzgerald and Bagley. The Joy Southfield CDC, they raised over $100,000 to do home repair in their neighborhood. There's probably many more examples across the city of Detroit of entities, CDOs in neighborhoods getting philanthropy and corporate dollars to help the residents do home repair. So I do want you to know that that's an option as well.
I understand, but I think what I'm trying to say here is, we're nearing the end of this process, the recommendations. Is there any intention around creating or incentivizing, products for small developers, particularly Black and brown developers that don't, have access to traditional products to spur development in their own communities? That's what I'm asking. Or equitably and at the block level for Mike and Joe down the street.
Gotcha. So what I would say yes, and I would say a lot of that stuff already exists in the housing department. So where you're saying does it exist? I would say it's already there. So with our notice of funding application, if you were to apply to that, we have a pre-development loan for emerging developers. You get more points being an emerging developer and doing an emerging development deal. And that's a pre-development loan for you to do the work. So.
But it sounds like you said, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not trying to stick for you, but it does not reflect within the framework design. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Oh, no.
Well, it's in the
We're
first.
asking that it be included.
It will definitely be included in the framework. That's a high
Not just an individual
priority.
person, but just so that it's.
Yes, it is a high priority for people who live in the neighborhood to be able to develop in this neighborhood. So yes, we will
We should
put
see that added onto.
It'll be when you get the book. It'll be one of the things that the community.
And if you guys don't see that in the draft, you check us and we'll put that in the draft. But I guarantee you it will be in the draft.
So I just want to take us back to the 0% loan
Sure.
as a solution.
I'm not saying a solution, I'm just saying
Remind
it's a-
everybody that the median income is $27,000 for a family of 3. Even with 0%, you're still going to have a payment term on that loan.
Yeah.
You seem like you're really good at math, probably better than me. What would be the monthly payment on a $25,000 0% interest loan for a family that makes $27,000 a year? Can they afford that?
$25,000 over 10 years divided by 12.
Yeah, but
Whatever that is.
so I do want to let you know that it does. And those programs are very hard to do. That's why the CDOs and the CDCs across the city of Detroit have stepped up, like Joy Southfield CDC, Cody Ridge Community Action Alliance, the Live 6 CDC, have stepped up and gotten money from philanthropy and corporate to do home repair for the most desperate citizens in their neighborhoods.
So
What would that look like over here, though?
it would be the.
Yeah, no, we agree.
How would that be initiated?
Yeah.
Go back to her. My point being that even when you guys are creating these funding programs for people who get 0% interest, like, I don't even know if you're gonna require a certain level of credit score for that.
Yeah, and so
The credit score and the $27,000 a year, you know, they're both probably pretty low.
Yeah, the 0% is a great, so most of the CDCs don't do a 0% program. Live 6 and Cody Ridge Community Action Alliance, those are grants. Joyce Southfield CDC, that's a grant that they give. It is not a loan at all. He's talking about a city program. I'm telling you that in most cases, the city programs aren't working for the residents who need the most help in these neighborhoods. And that's why the CDCs have stepped up, and they don't do loans, they do grants.
It's a different problem. And what I would say is, you know, and I think you're hitting it, right? Which is that, hey, like, grants, loans, you know, how do we, I think what we're saying is that these are just tools that we're throwing out, and that we need more. We understand that, but this is just what's on the table right now. So you asked me, what can we do? I threw out that. If we need other programs, that's a conversation. That's just throwing it out there and seeing what we can create. So I don't have all of the perfect solutions for everybody in the room, but I'm trying to give you something while we keep working to get.
And I appreciate that, but what you are giving me is not relevant to the majority of people in this neighborhood because they can't afford it. I'm sure in other parts of the city, it is an effective program and people are happy to have it, but it is irrelevant to a family that makes $27,000 a year.
Yes. All right, well, we gotta keep working, right?
Or a retired senior that's on a fixed status.
Yeah, it's a very difficult program to work when you.
We got more work to do.
Right.
I mean, I'm not saying that we got all the answers. I'm just saying that we got.
No, and that's why the CDCs have stepped up in these other neighborhoods.
So I want to kind of get back to that question because we've talked about the CDC, and I think part of the challenge is how does this particular neighborhood get a CDC? Is it something that organically happens? Is it something that the city assists with? That is the part that, as we drop in the CDC piece, I think is important to make sure we explain.
Okay, excuse me, Councilman, I sat in the CDC conversation now for 10 minutes. I said I wasn't gonna say anything. $200,000 will fix 20 roofs. 20 roofs. There are 9,000 housing units in Brightmoor. Every single CDC, and I sit with everyone you named, will tell you those programs are bankrupt in the first 2 hours that they are open.
That's right.
So, let's be honest. The challenge facing us is enormous. And while these things will help a very few, the larger part of our population does not have a solution for its housing challenges right now. It is my frustration with this whole process, which I promised myself I was not going to talk about tonight. But the truth of the matter is, our problem is bigger than this. The truth is bigger than $75,000 to $100,000 a house, and that was in the neighborhoods that had the more stable, better conditioned houses. I don't know the business. I'm taking his word for it. So let's be honest about the challenge in front of us. This is great for who it's great for. 20 houses at $10,000 a roof. 20 houses.
Yeah, and most of them, you are correct. Most of those CDCs are only able to give grants to 10 to 20 houses, so that is correct.
So why do you tell us that that's something we should?
Because I guess what I'm saying is that there are entities out here who are trying to help. And I guess to a certain extent, it's better to try to do something, even if it's small, rather than to throw your hands up and say, you know what, nothing's gonna work and don't try at all. So I guess all I'm saying is when I give you the Cody Ridge Community Action Alliance and the Joyce Southfield CDC and Live 6 and some of the other ones, they're just trying to do a little small dent in the neighborhood. Can they solve the major issue of the equity gap in the African American community, the lack of jobs, the lack of income? No. But at a certain point, they can start to try a little bit. And that's all I bring it up, is as an example that some entities are trying. You're not going to solve everything, but we do have to try.
It's not what you said.
Okay.
But I agree with you guys that the challenge is great, and we're trying, right? So we're throwing out the things that we know, and then we're going to be with you as we keep going through this. So it's not like the plan is done and then you never hear from us again. And we did that. That's not what happens. So as from the plan, once this plan is done, right? This goes into implementation, which means that you're going to be sitting with me, telling me, hey, DeMarco, what are we doing? What are we doing? So I'm going to be with you as we keep trying to do these things, as we keep trying to bring in new development. You need grants, I'm gonna be there with you. Pro Tem he's not going nowhere, he's gonna be here right with you, trying to figure this stuff out. We don't have all the answers, but we're trying to do something. And to what Dave was saying, like, the answer can't be don't do anything because we don't have anything that works. We have to keep trying. Go ahead, Tamika.
So we have one more scheduled framework meeting, is that correct?
Yeah, the next framework meeting will be parks and open space, and then what happens is each department then starts having their own implementation meetings as they start to move projects along.
So what that means is each department, planning and develop, will start to have more meetings as it's set as a community forum.
Yeah,
Because we don't want for you guys to say, you know, we have this last meeting and then you're gonna communicate with us and there's no more community forum meetings.
No, so what happens is the plan gets done, it gets written,
Okay.
it gets there, and then people get a chance to edit it for almost a month or two.
How?
And then we're probably gonna do it online.
Okay.
We're still trying to figure that out, but it seems like it's better if it's done online. Then, after that's done, there's all these different types of implementation things that potentially can happen. New roads, new parks, housing developers coming in. Anytime an implementation project starts to even get a whisper, like GSI and DWSD, they have to set up a meeting in a community forum to have discussions. So
What's
potentially,
GSI?
a green stormwater infrastructure,
And what's the other initials you just threw out there?
Detroit Water and Sewer Department.
Thank you.
And so then I just want you to know that potentially most of the plans that we've been working on have been going on for 5 to 6 years. The planning department coordinates and sets up a plan, identifies what the implementation strategies are, and then the other departments start to pick based on their budget of what they'd like to move forward on. When they move forward, they have to have a community forum meeting to do that.
Thank you.
Okay, go for it, Mark.
All right, I'm gonna try to speak through some of this stuff.
No, you're done.
Yeah, well,
Yep.
then we build a home, right?
Next slide. Oh, we're
Michelle.
No, you're done.
Yeah, then we build it, right?
Okay, here we go.
I don't know what we do. This is a project in your neighborhood, Orchard Village. Well, maybe right outside your neighborhood. This is an example of one of those projects I wanted to talk to you about, low-income housing tax credit deal, Orchard Village. This is a rendering that they gave us at the bottom here. So we would bring this to you and say, do you like it? You know, maybe you do, maybe you don't. Hopefully we can get you right. But it's currently in construction and expected to complete spring of 2025. This project is 50% of the units are at 60% AMI. That would be $40-something thousand a year. And then 50% of them are 50, 40, and 30% AMI. So even lower than that.
You want to talk about the developer?
Michelle, who's the developer?
So
Smaller?
the development partners on this project are Blightbusters.
Has everyone heard of Brightmoor?
With John George, and the co-developer is Cleveland Housing Network, who is doing some extensive work around affordable housing in many of the neighborhoods throughout.
And this development is 1 block away from actually where John George lives.
You had a question there?
John George is the head of Blightbusters.
This is, you're saying this is just outside of Brightmoor, it's on Orchard.
I
I'm wondering why you guys aren't showing us my Angelo Village.
Just not.
Because that's
My Angelo
affordable
Village.
housing.
It is.
It doesn't
I think
give
it's.
your name on the construction banner.
I like my Angelo Village. I would talk about it. You want to talk about my Angelo
My
Village?
Angelo Village, that's not affordable, that's a mission, they changed it over to Michigan, when they changed the name over to Maya Angelou. It was Alternative for Girls, that's where it started off, at Alternative for Girls, and it changed over to the Maya Angelou project, because it's under federal, it's receiving federal funds. They've already identified, federal funding means that 2 years ago, they had to tell them who was gonna be living there, how much they were, so they knew 2 years ago. Now, granted, we all saw, for most of us that was on the Zoom link, and we saw the whole big rollout of the Alternative for Girls, and that's not what it is. It's now it's a mission project.
So where are the girls going?
Where the girls going?
Nowhere.
Well, what do you mean?
Hold on.
Alternative for Girls still is in that project. They have a daycare.
Yeah, daycare on the first floor.
Yeah, currently completing build out.
It's just not what they told us. They told us it was going to be an apartment for single
women with children, and they tricked us. Now it's for low income, and not just, let me just be clear, they didn't trick us because it's federal funding. They could not discriminate and only say single women, so it's low income housing, is from what I understood. Right?
Look at you, look at you.
Why did y'all tell us that it was gonna be the girls?
They
So-
y'all.
That's what it was.
They even tricked our councilman, so.
Right. But my thing is this, it's just like Brightmoor scattered homes.
Yeah.
You start a project, the city is involved, you try to bring affordable homes to where people will have home ownership.
Right.
And you don't follow through, just like what we see it now. If you can't take care of Brightmoor scattered homes and follow through with that and make sure people are home owners of these homes, then why do you keep presenting stuff like this here? Seeing apartments, people is not owning no homes. This is an apartment, they not getting nothing out of this to where they can say, I own this property. What good is that gonna do them?
So you mean when we say affordable housing, you're saying that's not a house, that's an apartment building?
Right.
I feel like that's what I pulled a little bit of it.
Sort of.
Okay.
My thing is this, why are you telling us one thing? Like you said, this is supposed to be a girl's home, there's no mistakes in what y'all do.
Okay.
And then you come around, and now you're telling us something different, it's a mix-up. It's just like Brightmoor scattered homes, that's what I'm hearing.
I hear you. I think I got it. So if I could, so I was not around when the Alternative for Girls changed names to Dr. Maya Angelou Village. Dawn had a deep conversation where she said that y'all got bamboozled, and because the programming changed a little bit for the housing. And I think a lot of it happened when either they understood that they could not just make it all women.
And Richmond received that.
I said I don't know. But what I'm saying is that when they communicated it to you, they just was like, well, you just got to deal with it. Sorry about that. And that's just not, that shouldn't have happened. There should have been a much more different conversation about that. So that's what I got for
There
it.
is one more thing I would like to get clarity on that, because I do admit I don't know as much about this as other people in the room, but when I have driven by that, I see the name O'Brien Construction on it. Is that the same
No.
construction company?
No.
or is it
No
different?
relation.
Okay, good.
Zero.
Great. Okay.
Can we say, and be honest, nobody making $27,000 is gonna be able to afford a house.
To afford
And holding up home ownership in front of somebody on $27,000 a year income is misrepresenting the truth. Now, there are other ways to find adequate housing, but let's just be honest. That's all we're asking you to do. If you're gonna build something that's low-income housing, don't say it's for girls. If you're gonna put people in houses and say they're gonna own in 20 years and they aren't, then just say that. Just tell the truth. And the truth is, in America today, nobody making $27,000 a year is gonna be a homeowner unless there is enormous subsidy put under them for that house. And even then, they probably won't have sufficient income to maintain it. That's the truth.
That's absolutely true. That's true.
2009 coming back again. Everybody's gonna fall.
Okay. We can move past this.
Oh, next slide.
Next slide. These are affordable housing typologies. I'm about to speed through it, I promise. So there's just different types of deals that we do. Mixed use, which is kind of the easier one for the city to do because you got more units, you can spread the cost out. Well, mixed use, multifamily, mixed use just means that there's like residential and commercial, or residential and office space. Multifamily, when we say multifamily, we're just saying that it's going to be all residential units. Townhomes are homes. They're attached typically, but they can be detached. These are single family homes. They're a little bit difficult to do given the current cost of single family housing. And in pocket neighborhoods, it's a bunch of different things, but generally speaking, it's a larger development that includes a bunch of smaller structures within it. So single-family homes, maybe a duplex, and all of it makes up the one deal. So it's a different kind of deal.
Oh, thanks a lot. So one of the things that...
Dave, can we say one last thing? I know we're going through, but I just want to be, in the spirit of what Pastor Larry said, we want to be honest and be transparent about some of the challenges that we have. One of the challenges that we have, based upon how much it costs to rehab and certainly to develop these properties, these facility properties, we're not seeing 3-bedroom units, even with multifamily. And I want to be completely honest with that. We are pushing, we are working towards it, but what we're seeing are studios, and these studios are shrinking. They're getting smaller and smaller. We're also seeing 1-bedrooms. We're seeing 2-bedrooms, but very rarely do we see 3-bedrooms now that are being developed in the city of Detroit and really around this country, to be honest with you. So again, I want to make sure that we level set on what to expect as we move forward. Think the climate may change in years, but right now, that is a huge challenge. And we talk about families in Brightmoor, it's more than just 2 rooms, 2 bedrooms. So I just wanted to make sure that that was included in this conversation. And it's something that we're looking at and trying to identify. Those not brought up in the room.
President Pro Tem is exactly correct. One of the things that's happening here, because the Detroit Water and Sewer Department is doing a large $20 to $30 million green stormwater infrastructure project, we don't know what potentially might develop around that amenity. So one of the things that we want to give that option to is for a developer to come here and be able to develop middle-income homes if they want to. And so we are going to save some land around there, but I don't want everyone to think that the only thing that potentially a developer might want to do is multifamily. A developer might want to do townhomes. A developer might want to do a pocket neighborhood. So those are other options because those are a little bit more, and those would include 3-bedroom, but obviously those would be much more expensive, right?
You have a question over here.
My question is, how are they building homes? And they ain't fixing up the ones they get now.
Who's building homes?
Brightmoor, period. How anybody can come to Brightmoor and build anything?
There are single-family new construction homes that you know about? Like where?
A building, period. It can
No,
be
so-
a daycare, anything.
Right,
So why we can't get the funds to fix up our houses that we already did, but they can get the funds to build stuff?
Yeah,
That's
but
great.
so a developer might say, hey, this new green stormwater infrastructure thing that you created is beautiful. We want to put some housing around it.
How you gonna put a house around it? How you gonna put a house around it if your house sinking? I mean, just period. I get dirt thrown at my house 8 times a year, and it's still sinking.
Yeah, and so
So,
once again,
that dirt that they using to build homes, they need to take that dirt and get over there and fix our house the proper way.
and I think what Michelle is doing, Michelle Lee is doing, she's taking down all the names, and she's gonna.
I don't mean to cut you off. I've been to 50 meetings. I got 6 kids. I'm a single parent. I work 3 jobs, baby. 3 to make ends meet on a daily basis. It's no way you can keep going to meetings after meetings after meetings. That's time taken. I could be at work making some money to throw some old dirt. But I'm sitting here at 8 different meetings, every 6 meetings a year, not saying to draw far, but ain't nothing getting done. My oldest daughter is 11. I've been sitting in meetings since she was 2. I've been in my house for 15 years. It ain't no way. What Section 8? And you mean to tell me I went from paying $1,000, no, went from paying $700 with 6 kids to paying $1,100 with 2 right now?
And ain't nothing
That's on my
changed but her
lease.
money.
Ain't nothing changed but her money. And they taking my taxes. See, they want to get to the bottom of it. I do need to talk to her. They take my state taxes every year for this house I do not own. And I've been downtown several times in front of them, and they still ain't getting my money back. And they took them this year too. So all these meetings and all this,
I hear you. Michelle's not asking about a meeting. She's getting your information to give it to our president.
50 people on my phone for the same thing.
Well, we work directly with those people who are working.
And then y'all want, not saying it's y'all fault, but y'all want us to contact you and keep coming to these meetings and keep coming to these meetings. It's ridiculous. My house is falling apart. And I can own it any day. And you know what? I don't even want it. Because the money I got to put in to get it, it's not going to be worth standing.
no rent like everybody else. Don't pay no rent, and eventually, you gonna own the house.
So what I do want to say is, thank you for that. And our goal is that we believe that
It's
there's.
free, everybody's paying that for free. It's quiet, just like everybody else.
They don't like paying
But
Just cut your grass.
And the ones that do, they want to take care of their house.
Yeah, so we believe that there is a future for Brightmoor, but we also have to solve some of those problems as well. So we understand that. But what we wanted to do now, today, is just talk a little bit about the future, about what could be. And then what we need to do is kind of get your input, because if developers do come knocking at our door and they want to do something in this neighborhood, we'd like to let them know kind of what the community prefers as a preference.
And I got one question. That HUD. I got a 4-bedroom. And I've been in the house for 15 years. Through HUD. If I move out my house and move into they pay the full amount right now. If I move out my house, which they're gonna pay for me a 2-bedroom, they're only gonna pay $750 a month with low income, Section 8. For a 16-year-old girl and a 10-year-old gonna share a bedroom. So you telling me that HUD get all this money, but I got it in writing, they don't pay shit for me. Nothing. And if I move out my 4-bedroom home to move into another home that HUD got, they ain't paying nothing. I might as well stay where I'm at. I pay $1,000 a month in rent with Section 8.
Okay, so once again, A30 is going to try to help solve that problem. So if we can go to the next slide,
And I pay it every month. You know, before we do this little artsy fancy thing that we always say, what do we want to
Wait, hold on. I do want you to know that you don't have to do this at all.
Okay, I got you. I
Because
but based on but based on what we've already heard from Pastor Simmons, what we know to be true, what President Pro Tem said, we're not going to talk about what we want to see here. We need to talk about what people can afford to live in here. That's what and what type of money we're looking to give away to tax abatements that's necessary to bring the right developers in, or other developers that we need to put on notice. Because that's what we need. We don't need to see these visual stars and stuff. We need to have realistic conversations.
The reason
You're
why
cutting me off, and I'm going to finish what I'm saying. So you might as well stop. I'm not going to be disrespectful. If you allow everyone else to speak, I'm going to finish my statement. Thank you. Again, we're asking for affordable housing. What does that look like? So don't tell us what do we want to see. We told you what we want to see. We made it very abundantly clear what we need in this community. So to show us pictures and do arts and crafts and to take 10 minutes instead of allowing the community to continue to lift up the concerns and the needs is disrespectful and dismissive. Extremely dismissive.
That's right.
Okay, so
I would rather from President Pro Tem to hear what's available to us. Can we hear that from President Pro Tem as far as your department, your committee? Let us know what type of funding is coming through this committee. Can you tell us that, President Pro Tem?
So what comes through my committee are the deals that come from the departments. That's why it's so critical for them to provide that information to you.
So do
Because
they
we don't
have any
say
developments coming through? Any developers?
through this particular framework,
Any developers at all that they've identified?
for this.
I'm asking you so I get a straight answer.
I appreciate that.
Y'all just keeping it real in this moment.
I appreciate that.
Yep, need to know.
But I'm saying, are we strictly talking about Brightmoor or just citywide?
We're talking about Brightmoor in this moment.
Right now, there is absolutely no developer that is.
No developers coming through.
No, ma'am.
Thank you.
So the reason why we do this exercise is because the developer calls us up and says, hey, we heard you just did a plan with the community. Could you tell us just a general idea of what this community might be interested in before we start putting our pens on paper and developing a project and starting to put a pro forma together? And so then typically what we like to do is say, hey, developer, we did this community exercise and they really like this type of development. And then we give that to them and then they typically will come back and start putting together their $1 million deals. That's how it's happening in other communities.
But can I just say this clear? There's going to have to be some negotiation with these folks who have big money that we don't necessarily like when they come into our community. Because there's going to have to be, as I mentioned before, we're going to have to provide some incentives to get them, to encourage them to do the development that we want to see. So we have to be, again, honest and transparent about that aspect of what we're seeking and what we're looking to do. Right now, there's no developer knocking on our door. Part of it is because we don't have a plan for it.
Okay. Right.
The other piece to it is we got those holes on the land bank properties right now, which as we start moving towards this water feature, they're going to be released. Now, our intent is not just to provide those properties, and I'm going to be honest about how I'm looking at it and what I'm saying. It's not just going to be wholesale, everyone who wants a property in the neighborhood, you can have one. I would love for that to be the case. But what we're also trying to do is build density as well. So we've got to figure out how to not just have lots, but how to have development that takes place there. There are some folks who have approached us and said that they want to possibly make a deal, but right now what they're talking about, and I'll be honest with you, for me, does not equate to growth and progress for us in Brightmoor. It does not include a solution to the Brightmoor scattered homes issue that we have. That's 300 plus properties.
Right.
300 plus. That's a huge number in one neighborhood. And so some of this is tying whoever this development group is or will be, how do you help us solve this issue? Because it's not going to be indie. It is not just us taking money and we've defaulted on the loan. That still doesn't solve the problem. What it does is get their attention. But at the end of the day, if they go, and correct me if I'm wrong, if they go bust, what happens to the people who live in the properties that are owned by Indians?
That's right.
I mean, somebody talk to me. You all, this is the world.
Well, those homes would go into receivership. We would try to work with the receiver to make sure those people who live in those homes are not, that they're not left on the street. I mean, there's a lot of conversation. And that's above.
No, I got you, but I'm saying we want to let people know what is being faced. Because right now, there may be an impression that all we have to do is this, and it frees up everything, and it changes everything.
Yeah, no, these properties, so the typical process, we default, these houses go to receivers. We work with the receiver, with the people who live in those homes.
DeMarco, the receiver has the ability to do what?
Evict.
Okay, that's the piece that we have to say. That's the danger that we're in by just saying, we're just going to take the money away, we're just going to let you go and default and fail. That's the challenge that we're in right now. It'll be great to suffocate that particular developer. And when I say suffocate, I mean take away the fun. You gotta be careful about the words.
So if these are second, because he don't pay but $125 a month rent on the house, he already told me that. So, say for instance, the house is going foreclosed, and y'all get them now, all that mortgage that's left behind it. And me personally, I don't know about nobody else, but I don't spend up $200,000 around my house. I've been here for 19 years. What, do we have to pick up that damage?
No. Well, no.
Keep it out?
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Y'all don't know, that's the problem right here. Y'all want to keep going to the future about this new stuff. Well, we stuck right here. I'm stuck. I've been here for 19 years. I'm stuck in it. Because guess what? I'm not going nowhere. Y'all not just gonna take my house. Me and my kids have been raised in this house. And it's not gonna be fair, because I'm telling y'all, the man said he had told me, he asked me, how much rent did you pay? I said $975. He said, I only pay $125 on your house, so I gotta take the other money and do other stuff with it. So he let me know. He's not paying my house note. And the eviction is gonna go on foreclosure. I don't bid for it. The people don't send no to my door. I went to the city to try to get my house, and that's when they told me it's in the coalition, I can't do it. And figure I'd make them go pay them taxes. So at the end of the day, we all lost. All of us living here, because he gonna lose these houses because people starting not pay their rent no more. People catching on. They not fixing our house. They really niggering us for real. For real. You have to go in, I'm aggressive with y'all. I have to go in there aggressive like that every month when I pay my rent. I need this done. To make it, but it's not. I shouldn't have to do that when the city allowed him to come here and do this to us. And it's and we complaining. If we not the first group, it was 2 groups before us. That's why some of them got their houses. So y'all should have let this close down, shut it down, because guess what? The middle class is gonna get lost. Ain't that what the government talking about? Where's the middle class gonna be in? We gonna be lost. And we don't spend all this money in these houses. We, like me and my cousin, we don't decorate our certain way that we want to live in forever. I've been here 20 years. Come on now. So where's we at? Where we fit in? Y'all get these and y'all wanna sweep us under the rug, and sit down, and John to be sitting here, y'all, everybody laughing and kiki and ha, and y'all leave, y'all going home. Y'all secure, we not. Cause if the city come and take our houses right now, what are we gonna do? And then it's all this money, all this mortgage only. What are we gonna do? Cause I don't been there 20 years. I ain't got time to do a 20 more year mortgage for a house that I don't pay for 3 times. No, y'all need to figure it out and get it together, not tomorrow, today. Y'all need to get the future stuff y'all talking about alone and get a hold of what's going on right now in these houses for us who don't have no better home. Y'all come and push us out. It's not fair to us. That's what y'all need to do. So you need to go back to Dr. Richard. You need to call all of Tate and call them all and ask them, where's the paperwork? How can we get these women, these single people, their homes? Low income people. Because I am low income. When I moved here, I had a job. I'm disabled now. I won't qualify for your house. But guess what? I pay my rent every single month.
That's right.
For 19 years, I don't pay it.
Yes.
So y'all need to go close this down. I'm like Minister Boy said, the crayons, let it go. Go back to the drawing board and say, we need to go back to this Brightmoor homes first. Because I guess what I'm going to tell you, I'm here every week with a round mouth talking about Brightmoor homes. Because I'm not going to be left out of the system. There's nowhere to go. And it's not fair to us. Y'all need to shut that down. Figure that part out. Come back and call us. Let's have a meeting with the Brightmoor homes and figure this out. Figure this out. We keep telling y'all what they doing to us. How they are mistreating us. Y'all talk about rent a squad, rent that son lord. He's a son lord. When y'all gonna get him? They come nigger out there down the stairs. Now he gonna put me whole new set of stairs in. Because I had to fall first. Come on now, the city. Y'all allowed this man to get these houses, to keep building and keep building and keep building and get money. Y'all should have been checking to make sure he was paying his house notes. He was paying his taxes and treating his people right. That he's not doing us right, and it's not fair to us. It's really not fair. Y'all to figure this out, and I mean it. I would be at every meeting. I ain't sick no more. I was sick. That's why I missed him. I'm back. I want my house. Y'all better figure it out. I'm done. Now you go ahead. But you need to shut the meeting down. So.
Okay, so I guess once again, the whole purpose of this is if a developer calls us and is interested in developing a neighborhood, we'd like to tell them what types of building they would prefer that the community. Do you guys want to do this? So
No.
Okay, so then, just so you know, in the framework plan, other neighborhoods give a preference. This one's not going to have that.
That's okay.
Okay, just making sure everybody's comfortable with that.
Hold on, wait. So this is one, hold on one second, because I need to kind of recalibrate. So this is one element that folks have said that they don't want to participate in. Is there anything else after this?
No. I mean, realistically speaking, at the end of the day, I get my direction from you guys. So if you don't want to talk multifamily, you don't want to talk mixed use.
Look, that's not the question. Multi-family, mixed use, everything like that can be on the board. But what he's asking us to do is tell us what we like about elevation. That has no impact or import in this particular meeting.
So I think, okay, all right, I think we can work with that. So essentially you're saying you're okay with mixed use, multifamily, but you don't want to sit here and talk about what it looks like. You can deal with that when I have a project. I'll bring it to you.
Yep, and so then now we're going to move to zoning, so we're almost done.
I'm sorry. So those slides that you were showing us, every single one of them had an option on there that I think you're hearing from people, which is I prefer a different type of housing, and that is the houses that they live in. So can you please make sure that goes on the board?
So you're saying that we want to tell developers that we don't want the new housing, we want the housing that they live in. How do you want
To fix that situation.
Okay, so no new development in the neighborhood until that situation is
This
fixed.
is what I'm saying. That is telling you that you have an option on the board that you have heard a response from this community, and we expect you to represent it correctly.
Yeah, I'm trying to make sure I understand exactly what you're saying. No new development in the neighborhood until we fix Brightmoor homes.
No.
I think that's what she's asking
I
for
don't
the
think
plan.
so. On the slides that we have a board option that says, I don't necessarily prefer any of these.
Yeah, and this
Or I don't care.
It
Now,
sounds
what
like
I'm getting is
single-family
that you guys don't care.
No, DeMarco, it
So-
says, what's the other option? What she's
Yeah, let's
saying
go
is
back.
the other option is no new development until we fix
I would
Brightmoor
prefer a
homes.
different housing.
I prefer a different housing type, and I would also like to point out, Dave, that you have given us a limited selection here that you have determined, and it is not reflective of the conversations you've had here. So if you really want to have an option selection from us, you need to bring us options that make sense for the things that we are telling you, and these don't.
So
But that's what I'm trying to get from you, though.
The only thing missing from this is single-family housing. That's the only one that's not there. It's very difficult at this time to build it. The price wouldn't necessarily make sense. So we wouldn't want to present to you and say, we're going to build single-family housing. It's $300,000. A developer's going to sell that for $350,000. It doesn't make sense.
Right,
We
so
can
you're
put it.
basically asking us to pick what type of gentrification we want to see.
That's not what we're asking.
Well, just so you, wait, hold on, DeMarco, just so you know, that large green stormwater infrastructure might potentially be a little pond, it might be beautiful. $20 million, $30 million, I'm not sure how much DWSD, Detroit Water and Sewer Department, is going to do. But this little beautiful area, developers might be interested in putting market rate there. Market rate being middle income homes around that, in addition to some affordable. But what you might be saying is, you know what? We don't want middle income people to come into this neighborhood. We don't want that. And so if that's the case, I need to reflect that in the
I
plan.
think you do need to reflect in the plan that we are not going to help you plan who comes here. We are going to help you plan how you take care of the people that are here.
Existing owners, exactly. And that's what we're gonna put in the plan. So a developer comes up and says, hey, I want to invest $30 million on Finkel. I'd love to do a mixed-use building with affordable housing on top and retail at the base. And we're supposed to tell the developer, based on the plan, developer, we don't want that development here because the community has told us they want us to fix the existing neighborhood first.
Yes.
Okay,
100%. That is what
that's fine. This plan is yours. And I'm not gonna change it. This is your plan. That's what I have to tell the developer. If a big time developer says, hey, I wanna put 100 homes there, I'm gonna say, hey, that's not what the community wants here.
So that's not the full answer, though.
Yeah, I would.
So the other piece to it is, we have to also deal with the reality of, as I mentioned before, there's going to have to be some market rate in the neighborhood. That is no doubt across the board. Now, the question is, are those developers who are building or who are here to build the market rate, how do we also get them to buy in and pay into assisting us with the existing properties that are currently here? There has to be a mixture. So I did not hear that you don't want any new development. I didn't hear that at all. I hear we want to prioritize the folks who are currently here and the housing stock that is currently here.
My point is that people have been very clear, and I think it is deeply inappropriate for you to ask people who are in the midst of being displaced to give you feedback on housing that they cannot access.
Exactly.
And make those decisions about what kind of housing that is so they can decide who they give their neighborhood away to. That is so inappropriate. I know that this is the template that you guys use, but you have had so many months of these conversations with people to adjust your approach to this so that it is relevant for this community, and you have not. You're giving us the
Oh,
same
no, we're
template.
gonna adjust it. Oh, you're gonna see, when we do the plan, you are going to see the adjustment. There will be no new development here until we fix the existing. So yes, that will be in the plan. Every developer across the country will know that about this area.
And if I could, that's, you know, this is your plan, this is your neighborhood, this is your framework. I'm just a housing guy trying to do some development here, I get that. But I don't think that that's really what you want me to walk away with.
What
And I
I'm
hope that's,
asking is for you to protect the housing
I think we
security
could-
of the people who live here now. If that means keeping them in their house and repairing it, great. If that means getting them access to a new, better one, better. But you need to make sure that you take care of the people that have been neglected.
so could we then, as a compromise, right? Could we say that with this housing strategy, you want to focus, make sure that the priority regardless of whatever we're trying to do, make sure that the priority is solving the Brightmoor home situation.
Yes.
And then,
Which
as
is
far as,
literally what everyone
yes, I agree with you, I agree. And then, any of this multifamily mixed use, I will come and appropriately reach out to the community if I get a developer. And we'll have a conversation at that point about any new stuff. But the priority should always be Brightmoor homes until that's resolved.
I think that's what the committee was.
Is that I'm talking compromise, right? Is that a fair compromise? All right, you got it?
Yeah, and so then we'll put that in the plan, you'll see that reflected. One of the things that we wanted to do is take a look at the zoning. Most of the zoning, next slide, Antoine, is, next slide. Oh, then go back. Go back. Okay, no, I'm sorry, Antoine, go back. Okay, so most of the zoning is R1, which only would involve a single family home. There's certain places, let's go to the map.
So just real quick, so you can give them some context. So when we talk about those mixed-use housing and the multifamily, we gotta upzone the properties. Remember in the beginning, I said R1 is for low intensity, and R3, R4, those are higher intensity. So if we wanna do higher dense development, we need to upzone. So at the appropriate time, we'll bring that.
And so then what we've done is we said, hey, around the big GSI initiative, we'd like to make that R3, so some multifamily affordable housing could potentially go there in the future. Along Finkel, we would love to make sure that that is B4 and R3 to make sure a developer can build mixed-use housing with retail at the base and residential on top. And so then these are kind of the different things that we've got as alternatives. And we'll put that in a plan. But at this point, one of the things that we'll make sure that is in big quotation marks in the plan is that no new development happens until we solve the issue of the existing residents. Okay, next slide. And then another thing is we have Smith Homes here. DHC is very interested in expanding Smith Homes.
Detroit Housing
Commission. And so then we'll be talking with them, and as we start to move forward, we'll make sure that DHC and HRD and planning have a meeting with you to take a look at what that expansion looks like to provide affordable housing in the neighborhood. Next slide. And then, so I guess the key recommendations is that we're going to recommend mixed use on Finkel, retail at the base, residential affordable housing on top. We're going to recommend R3 zoning to make sure multifamily can exist. And I think one of the big things that's not here is we're going to let everyone know that the community does not want any new development until we solve the issue of existing residents. Yeah. Next slide. And then this, everyone, this just, our next meeting is going to be with Clark Parks and Open Space. And then we'll start to set up some meetings implementation-wise when the other departments are ready to do that. Next slide. And then the last thing before we leave tonight, how many minutes do we have left to CLQ?
No. 5.
5 minutes, okay. So now, this is the last exercise of the night. What I'm going to do is everyone gets 10 seconds, and then we're going to ask you to answer this question. Let's envision the future of the neighborhood. I want people to tell me in 10 seconds what they believe the future of the neighborhood entails. I'll start with you.
I'm speechless right now. I'm just serious, I'm speechless.
You're speechless? Okay, I'm going to go with you.
I cede my time.
Sir?
Dave, I think this is still tone deaf to what's happened here tonight.
No, we're going to correct that. Once again,
we're going to, I'd like you to correct it by not having this conversation.
So if you really want to have a genuine conversation about what the community wants to see for the future, like maybe start the next meeting with that question instead of ending it after half the room is left.
Okay, we can do that. We can start the next meeting with that. Okay, so we're done, everyone. This meeting is adjourned. The last meeting will be Parks and Open Space.
Yes.